Horizon, Barry Lopez. It is a very, very good book. This took me a really long time to get into because, self-diagnosed ADHD. But secondly, it's the beginning is like he's very descriptive. Barry is very descriptive. I'll read the back of the book to get everyone spun up to speed on what this is. So, from pole to pole and across decades of lived experience, National Book Award winning author Barry Lopez delivers his most far-ranging yet personal work to date. Horizon moves indelibly, immersively through the author's travels to 6 regions of the world, from Western Oregon to the high Arctic, from the Galapagos to the Kenyan Desert, from Botany Bay in Australia to, finally, unforgettably, the ice shelves of Antarctica. Along the way, Lopez probes the long history of humanity's thirst for exploration, including the prehistoric peoples who trekked across Skraeling Island in northern Canada, the colonialists who plundered Central Africa, an Enlightenment-era Englishman who sailed the Pacific, a Native American emissary who found his way into isolationist Japan, and today's ecotourists in the tropics. And always, throughout his journeys to some of the hottest, coldest, and most desolate places on the globe, Lopez searches for meaning and purpose in a broken world. I'm unofficially diagnosed. Wait, a self-diagnosed gang? Well, actually, I guess I'm unofficial. So you haven't even self-diagnosed yourself, Coral? So you haven't been diagnosed or even self-diagnosed? We're just guessing? Okay. I can now scoot over because the light is no longer in my cornea. Wait, is it reflected here? Oh, it is, but it's not reflected here. Whoa. Can you see this? Can you see this? Whoa. I got that. Do we remember what stone this is? The orange one? Do we remember? Have we learned? Have we learned? Have we learned? Okay. I self-diagnose, and I've had a person who is a doctor. Amber! Yup. Yup. Tell me they think I have ADHD, but I haven't been diagnosed. Oh, okay. Okay. They're like, yeah, you're probably cooked. So, let's find a chapter. So the things that Barry has went through will make you second guess what you're doing with your life about 40 times over. This man, hearing the stories that he's been through, the things that he's done, the way he thinks about life, who he's talked to, what he's learned, just makes you go, wow, I think I'm an absolute idiot. You know, let's read Australia, huh? Port Arthur to Botany Bay, state of Tasmania, northern shore of the Southern Ocean, southeastern Australia, and then state of New South Wales, western shore of the South Pacific. This is actually super sick. Okay, are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready?
Are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? I think we're ready.
Okay. Maybe we'll take a break after every page and then talk about it. Let's do that. Let's try to find like an engaging way to go about this. Okay. Sir, we'll start on this page first. Okay, what were your thoughts? What did you think? What do you think about that page? This was my favorite part. That was pretty good. Okay, I related here, but I cried a little tiny bit right here. Cried a little bit right there. Coral says, "Yeah, I went to see them about something else. Can't remember what it was anymore. And then when we finished, they asked if there was anything else on my mind. So I asked about ADHD, and they were like, yeah, I got you. I kind of want to get diagnosed. I think it'd be cool to have, some like Vyvanse? I think it'd be cool to have like a bottle on hand in case like my day is super cooked and like I'm just really distracted. Okay. Speaking of ADHD, we got it. Okay. My hands are slotted loosely in the pockets of my trousers. I've turned my head and tilted it so the sun's rays fall full on my face while I gaze, squinting across the expanse of a former prison grounds. It might be the face of someone hearing but not listening to a eulogy. Inwardly elsewhere. Neither I nor my companion, a poet from Hobart and a recent acquaintance, is paying much attention to the cricket match going on in front of us. It's a pickup affair, being pursued on a greensward where picnickers stroll carrying paper plates of potato salad and fried chicken. The action on both sides, a white ball sailing over the head of a boy racing after it, another ball dismantling a wicket with a clatter, raises desultory cheers from the crowd, some of whom have their backs to the game. They're gnawing breast and thigh meat off the bones, cracking down hard on buttons of resistant cartilage. Those sitting have settled their drinks securely between ruffs of green grass to keep them upright. Some have paused with their mouths full to take in, like us, the bleak north wall of a burnt-out hulk, a roofless 3-story building across the way. They pursue with us in mute facade, perhaps imagining an angry face there at a barred window port, a figure emerging from the interior of one of the cells and glaring down indignantly from behind the twisted steel. Long ago, someone took a sledgehammer to most of these windows, a furious, determined effort to dismantle, to render into rubble what had happened here. Others, the ones who eventually prevailed, saw the commercial potential in preserving what remained of the penitentiary and its surrounding grounds, the passage and the cemetery, the watchtower at Scorpion Rock, and the guards' former barracks, now the Francis Langford Tea Room. So this is all taking place in Tasmania. That is the island south of Australia, not New Zealand, but it's actually a state of Australia. Lo says, I took Adderall until I got cut from my insurance. It did wonders on my ability to function. So Adderall helped. Did you feel like addicted at all? Also, he's very descriptive. So you should like this. I hope you do. My companion is pointing away to the east, toward the remains of the prison church. He offers me some points of its history. While 2 prisoners were excavating its foundation in December 1835, one of the convicts, he says, killed the other with a pickaxe. And it was also a convict, he tells me, one Henry Lang, who designed this building capable of holding 1,000 Christian prisoners for service on a Sunday morning. When construction was completed, however, the Church of England claimed the house of worship for its exclusive use. Catholic convicts objected so violently that extra guards had to be brought in to reestablish order and maintain it until an arrangement could be worked out. The decision the appointed committee made was to accommodate all Christian denominations at the same service. Roman Catholic prisoners who walked out during the first generic service were sentenced to 36 lashes each. Damn. You can go to church, you got lashed. 1835. Fuck around and find Jesus. The church was later destroyed in a fire in February 1884. I'd asked the poet to bring me here to Port Arthur from Hobart so I could see this storied transportation prison, one of the best preserved of nearly 36 such penal colonies built by the British across the empire during the 18th and 19th centuries. These convict dumping grounds were meant to house the portion of the British century the Crown had identified as undesirable for leading a life in the homeland. By the mid-18th century, the population of these outcasts had grown too large to be warehoused in the carcasses of decommissioned ships, the hulks, moored in the Thames. Among those sent instead to Port Arthur was the Hobart poet's great-great-grandfather, John Frimley, at the age of 15. The poet and I both consider Port Arthur a monument to the absolute power of an imperial state to purge itself of criminals, the mentally ill, political protesters, paupers, of anyone who posed a threat to the authority of the state or to its right to impose civil order. Yo, still live? No. Actually, stopped streaming a little while ago. Really wish I could stream soon, you know? I miss streaming. I miss streaming crazy. I wish I was. Lo says, I was dependent on it, but it's not the same as being addicted to it. I got you. No, I know what you're saying. Well, crazy. If this isn't the place to fall asleep, you know, put your little head on your little smoky. Like, if I didn't take it, it felt like I had been hit by a truck and had the flu and felt foggy when I didn't take it. So I was pretty dependent on it. I know what you're talking about. I do. I mean, can you kind of relate that to nicotine? You know what? If we aren't in the theme of Aussie, we're crazy. Hold on. In my care package from my dear mate in Adelaide, she sent me this. One of our mates out there, his wife makes candles. So she sent me one of the candles she makes. I don't know why this camera is so drab. I didn't think about messing with it, so sorry. So we're going to Pyromancy, Elden Ring Fire, Surely me not having a window open will cause no problems, correct? I don't need a window open. Just a little tiny candle. I reckon it's just a tiny candle. Oh my gosh, chat. We're having such vibes here, huh? Australian candle, Australian book. Well, not Australian book, but it was on Australia. Kind of, yeah. Because when I didn't take my Adderall for any longer than a day, my mental health as a whole declined as well, which happens when I tried to quit nicotine too. How weird. I wonder if it can, like, man, surely, like, I mean, I feel like there's a consequence to taking any medication at all. Maybe besides like vitamin C, but part of me wants to believe that it's just good things. Damn, Crazy's internet is toasted. Okay, let's continue. There's a break, so we're starting something new. On this particular warm afternoon in the fall, the hundreds of visitors spread out across the former prison grounds appear to be enjoying themselves, to be at their ease wandering through the building, lolling on the grass. A group of Chinese travelers has just disembarked from a tour bus. Their guide is starting them off with a visit to the former gardens. Shoppers in the Port Arthur gift shop, housed in a building that was once the prison's insane asylum, are considering souvenir trinkets and postcards. In the flogging yard nearby, two young women stand together, motionless, before a discolored post with a sheen to it. Finally, they step away, looking somewhat relieved. The history of the criminals once housed here has been slightly jiggered for public consumption by the Port Arthur Historic Site Management Authority, simplified and expurged to not offend a modern sensibility. Many, perhaps most, of those picnicking on the cricket pitch believe that what happened here at Port Arthur was cruel, unjust, and unenlightened. Some, no doubt, are also inclined to regard most of the former convicts as the unfortunate victims of a misguided experiment in social engineering. Whatever iniquity might have characterized Port Arthur in the years it operated, I believe the consensus among visitors here today, as it might be among visitors to Shong Elk, the killing field outside Phnom Penh, is that his extreme public violence toward people is no longer openly tolerated. Whatever its faults, civilization has advanced too far to allow it. The Port Arthur historic site has been laid out to edify and reassure the visitor to isolate its evils in a distant time. It is not set up as a caution to the visitor, nor meant to suggest the existence in the world of inhumane criminal intent or of punitive governments, or to remind the visitor of contemporary governments who regard those who protest their actions as an affront to the crown. Yeah, that's you, Ginger. Which was the case with the Irish Ribbonists and members of the Young Ireland movement who were punished here. No connection is to be made at Port Arthur with Bashar al-Assad's underground prisons in Damascus or of America's off-site destinations for terrorists. Visitors to Port Arthur are meant to skate easily through and around all this darkness. Most are glad, one assumes, not to be forced to encounter any complexity or paradox here. They are, after all, many of them on holiday. You are the crown, Ginger. You are the crown. How easy is that? With the second camera angle, it is easy as this. It's as easy as this. Also, I see the reacts. Yeah, I'm just relaxing. Gonna try and go sleep earlier tonight, as I'm up early. No, it's stream time, baby. You've got another hour and 20 minutes. Honestly, Sam, I have work tomorrow, so I can't be up too terribly late tonight. Well, yeah, you goobers were up last night for like a billion hours. Or was it 2 hours? Or two days ago? Man, I shouldn't have had that coffee today. Oh, that's what's starting this. Crazy. The queen. Give her the crown. Okay. So far, painting the picture for what Port Arthur is. My companion, Pete Hay, has been commissioned by the Tasmanian government to compose a long poem about Port Arthur, about the particulars of the experiments conducted here in penal discipline, the incidents of physical assault in the mining pits, the extent of sexual violence, the despair of adolescent victims of serial R-word, and the furtive pickpockets alert for any opportunity to advance their standing in the prison population at the expense of someone else. The poet is a generous man. He has reams of notes, folders filled with research, the raw material from which he will fashion his poem, but he readily offers me a few of the discoveries he's made. The poet is not an artist obsessed with ownership. He does not hide the knowledge he's acquired. He's eager to share. I liked him right away. When I spoke to him over the phone from my home in Oregon and told him of my interest in the prison, he volunteered to drive me there from Hobart and to guide me through the site. From the picnic ground, we walk off slowly to the southeast, away from the main compound. The poet says he has something to show me, a part of the penal colony closed to tourists, but to which he has access, because of his research needs, and because it is his intention to look squarely into the factors that complicate the history of this place. We amble down a service road, enjoying the balmy March weather and exchanging views, like two people walking along the Malason in Havana, or the Marmara Denizi in Istanbul, where the aspects of an adjacent spacious sea encourages latitude in the conversation. I asked the poet who among Australian writers he most admires or enjoys, and he asks the same of me. Neither of us is looking for a critical appraisal. We're feeling our way toward shared ground so that our acquaintance might develop into a friendship. Oh, so cute. Yeah, you... I saw Ganja put a message in the Discord. He was like, "Can I be with the girlies? Can I come in the voice call?" Yes. So Hobart is in Tasmania. Hobart, I believe, is the capital of Tasmania. I was actually supposed to have a tournament there one year, and then COVID happened, and then we couldn't fly over to Hobart. It was very sad. So it seems like Port Arthur had a lot of very, very bad things happen on it. And it's been so long that everyone's kind of forgotten. Some people have forgotten, right? And people are having picnics on the execution grounds for where everyone died. So imagine not going to church and then getting whipped 35 times for it. That's pretty crazy. We continue on to a locked gate. to which the poet has the key. Beyond it, we pass through a corpse of gums to emerge on a deserted field. A few buildings once stood here, says the poet, adjacent to a cliff which plunges straight down to the sea, 100 or so feet below. The view west from this point of land, jutting in a Carnarvon Bay, is towards the town of Port Arthur and to the penitentiary grounds at Mason Cove. To the east are the waters of the northernmost arm of Mangan Bay, the bay a part of the Tasman Sea. From there, only the open ocean imposes between here and the George V. coast of Antarctica, 1,635 miles away from the southern horizon. The poet begins his story. This is Point Puer, he says, the tip of a short peninsula that protects the prison compound from storms coming off in the Tasman Sea. And it is here, he says, that boys as young as 8, brought in on the transportation ships, served their time as adolescents, inimical to the crown or to the wealthier classes. The buildings here, set apart as they were, gave the boys some protection from pedophiles housed with the main prison population. The poet describes the general historic and horrific atmosphere of sexual predation and debauchery at the prison. I stare at the ground. It's covered with narrow leaves from the eucalypts, a carpet of fallen leaves, shed bark, and fallen seed capsules. I gaze out across the water at a ridge of mountains on a peninsula miles to the east. I nod stiffly, acknowledging the repugnance of the history which the poet continues to present. The poet takes no pleasure in setting out the graphic details. His intention is to establish a context for what he now has to say. It was from these cliffs that some of the boys jumped to their deaths, hand in hand. Pursued through the labyrinth of buildings in the main prison compound during the day, cornered in closets and storage rooms where they were overpowered and R-word by psychopaths, hounded and beaten at night by their dormitory guards, who enforced the boys' adherence to a regimen of prayer, penance, and physical labor. Some chose death. They slipped away from the dormitory at night and leapt into the darkness, masking the water below. Some surely must have jumped during the day, says the poet, perhaps on a March afternoon like this one, when the warm air, soft breeze, and sun-spangled water embodied feelings of relief for them, of salvation. Running for the cliff edge, hand in hand, they ignored their warders, counseled to resist the temptation to end one's life in this hellhole, and sailed into the air. Damn. So, history is what is remembered, right? When something happens, it's done. It's only, and what keeps it true is whether you say it happened like that or whether it didn't happen like that. Like, if for some reason out of nowhere, everyone in the world unanimously agreed to never write down that Obama was president or to ever talk about Obama being president, technically he kind of would never be president because we would never remember or know that he was ever president. So the people that run the Port Arthur grounds, you know, they're kind of trying to paint what happened to be a little bit different so that it can be more approachable for the public. But the things that actually happened were very much different. With a gesture of my hand, I stay the poet and walk away by myself to the cliff top, where I stand and watch the water below for a while and listen to the breeze and the eucalypts, the fondly remembered trees of my childhood. On the way back to where the poet waits, making notes, I pick up 2 dark eucalypt buttons and pocket them. We quit the peninsula and return to the main prison complex. I do not tell the poet I understand why the boys held hands. If the poet had suggested to me that the suicides were unwarranted, I might have spoken up. But he seems aware of the human capacity to inflict humiliation and pain, and also of the depth of suffering some are forced to endure. Whatever he might have recalled of the forms of harm he's come across in his research at Port Arthur, he offers me only a bare outline of the story, and acts as though he might have compromised himself by saying only that much. His physical gestures speak of his own grief and compassion, so I feel a great affection for him and admire his decency. We walk west along the sea-skirting road, past the commandant's quarters and the site of the first prisoner's barracks, to arrive at the flagellation yard, where Pete explains the procedure at this spot for any prisoner who broke the rules. For those that don't know, flagellation? I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's the act of being beaten, pretty much. Prisoners were secured to a triangle frame, arms straight overhead, hands tied at the apex, then the feet spread and tied. The customary lash was a flail comprising 9 lengths of knotted cord. The blows fell across the bare back from neck to waist. The usual sentence of 20 to 40 lashes left the victim unconscious, and the back a jellied mass of pulverized flesh. These are like 8-year-old kids. What the fuck? I asked Pete where we might get a map that shows the layout of the prison, one that might pinpoint where the original buildings once stood. And now that it's a tourist destination, what changes have been made since the prison closed in 1877? He says we can get a map later on the way out. Just now, however, he thinks we should continue on through the penitentiary complex, examine some of the cell blocks, and look at a few of the curated exhibits, including one featuring portraits of some of the more notorious prisoners. Just before we enter the old cell barracks, Pete points out the Broad Arrow Cafe on the far side of the cricket pitch. Later, he says, we'll get a map there, as well as a bit of lunch. I can see Pete's red Toyota Corona sitting by the cafe in the sunshine. Just beyond, it is a yellow Volvo 244 with a surfboard strapped to the roof rack. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. I totally forgot about this. Oh, my God. I forgot how insane this was. Oh, this passage gets so wild. Oh, it sends shivers down me remembering it. Okay, it gets pretty insane. Remember that. Remember what I just said. I couldn't imagine it either, crazy. And I'm glad that none of us can imagine that. To get a full sense of what was once in operation here, says Pete, we need to visit the penitentiary itself and then walk through the model prison and then afterwards take in the prison museum and the old hospital. With that sequence now organized in my head, I step into the partially restored ruins of the penitentiary building, 3 floors of cells in which the most dangerous prisoners were confined. The cells denied prisoners open space and forced them to comply with the prison's daily routine. Stepping in and out of them is like swimming in and out of sleeping compartments on a sunken ship. The rooms emptied now of the bodies of the drowned. What most transfixes me in the penitentiary building, however, is not this poignant austerity, but instead a set of photographic enlargements hanging in one of the corridors, portraits of former inmates, the defiant faces of the insane, the duplicitous gaze of the pedophile, the vapid stare of the murderer. The images call forth in me neither compassion nor condemnation, only astonishment. My intention had been to ferret out salient details of prison life here, but the day is hardly half over, and I am thinking I've already seen enough. Whatever was decent in men and women in England in 1786, it was not sufficiently strong to condemn this idea when it came before Parliament and to terminate the experiment before it began. The two of us head for the model prison and the museum, and then proceed to the Broad Arrow Cafe for lunch and to look for a map. I could not anticipate how vividly details of this cafe would remain in my imagination in the weeks and years to come. We're making progress here. Hell yeah, dude. I've read more right now. The amount that we read alone would take me like 25 minutes because I get so distracted. Is anyone else the same? I reading is sometimes, if I'm not like invested in it, it's a lift. It takes me a long time. I read fast. I get distracted. Yeah, right, crazy. Okay. Water. Are you all drinking water? Are you? I don't want to use all of the candle, because I don't want to use it all. I don't want the smoke alarm to go off. Stop. What can I put over this? The fan is making it burn. This might be an actual problem. Hold on. It's smoking now. You see that? It stopped. It stopped. We're safe. It is not exploding. Lo says, I can read pretty fast. Once I get myself into a groove, I zoom through books. That's impressive. I'm currently reading the Twisted series, but it's so juicy that I got to stop to collect myself. Is that a smut book? Is that series smutty? I just have to get myself to actually get into it. Yes. Yeah. Coral says, for me, reading a book either takes like 2 days or it takes a year. The duality of my brain is nuts. No, like actually it takes me like legit sometimes a year to finish a book. I think this book took me a year, I think. Maybe more. Because I read a little bit and then I stopped and then I got back into it and then I stopped and then got back into it. Okay. My friend Mark Tredinick and I are following the Anna-Mari Weldon, a woman from Malta, down the Old Coast Road, 100 miles south of Perth on the west coast of Australia. We're headed for Lake Clifton, one of the Yalgorup lakes, this one situated in the middle of a national park. We're passing through an undulating landscape of sand dunes. Hold on. There was a break, so I think we're going to be coming back to that later. Of isolated stands of Mallee forest and limestone outcrops south of the city of Mandurah. The country hereabouts once belonged to Benjerab Noongar people, or they to it. Some of them are still here, engaging chroniclers, articulate about the history and nature of their home landscape. They speak of it as you would a relative, a close companion, or confidant, referencing a sphere of time inclusive of them and indistinguishable from this geography. Anna Maria, up ahead, has listened from the respect and curiosity of an ardent acolyte to the Benjerab custodians of Noongar culture. She has tried out the templates of her own Mediterranean ideas on this land, and alongside that, put in some 20 years of apprenticeship in the place, grappling with an epistemology different from her own, an aboriginal way of knowing. The fulcrum of her imagining is the complex ways in which people are married to a place, whatever the tradition might be, whatever the place. And also her awareness of the threats to these marriages from whatever quarter. Once she loved Malta to the exclusion of all else, I think. Now she is a student of Benjerab love of place. She's grateful. She's graceful, light on her feet, full of deep water, a person dedicated to something outside herself. Or so it appears to me. I marvel at the way Anna Maria and the Mark pronounce Benjerab Noongar as easily as they might refer to Italians, and how they refer to other local cultural traditions as if they constituted a second subterranean culture, contiguous across Australia, from Ingamoody in the northeast to Wardandee in the Margaret River County. In the continent's southwest, country toward which Mark and I are bound, from Winnembool and Kimberley in the far north to Tirintonapanar in Tasmania in the far south, an alternative tradition to the Northern Australian tradition. Aboriginal words are so hard to say. A spur off the main highway takes us through a dying tuart forest. We move into thickets of swamp paperback and peppermint willow, finally arriving at a spot where we park the cars. And Amaria leads us down a trail. There are a few acacias growing here, acquaintances I recalled from Africa. And then there is Lake Clifton. We approach it on an elevated wooden boardwalk above a sedge flat that borders the water. Ginger says, I accidentally spent 4 hours reading without realizing the other night, and let's just say I got through half. I don't read fast because of dyslexia. I mean, 4 hours is a lot. That's insane. I think it could be classified as smut. It is then. I'm currently like 9 months into one of the books I'm reading. Gee, how big is it? It's like a picture book. Dr. Seuss. Started a new one while I wait for the rest of the books to arrive. I'm now reading in 1,000 different ways. But do you, does anyone go to the library or do you buy books? The summer sun is full upon us. The heat is terrific, but this apparition Anna Maria has brought us to is so forceful, the discomforting heat becomes incidental. The lake has the aura of an exalted being. Its presence is insistent, like that of a wolverine one has suddenly come upon, asleep in a forest clearing in North America. I cannot recall in the moment ever having seen a body of water as ethereal. It's austere but benign, still as a mirror, its surface a color some painters call French gray, the reflection of a haze in the air above it. In the beating heat and palpable stillness, the overpowering sight of the elongated lake, less than a mile across, undoes me. It's bounded by greenish and gray-brown brush growing on long sand ridges that strike north and south. I identify the faint odor of rotting vegetation. For many moments, no one of the three of us says anything. A line of black swans passes by, bearing north over the water, and I become aware of voices piercing the silence suspended above the stillness. Fairy wrens. In the trees behind us, southward along the lake shore, red-necked avocets emerge from a deckled sheet of dunnish color at the water's edge. Small clutches of hooded dotterel race the shore beyond them, animated by the color of the sky sifted through a haze. The bowl of our space rounded by flocking birds, and bird song trembling in the heated air, all of us framed by earth-like colors. I grasp in it its near fullness the lake Anna Maria has brought us here to see. A billion years or so after debris from a supernova started to coalesce into the rocky planet we now occupy, Earth, the possibility of lives like ours were set in motion by an as yet unidentified species of cyanobacteria. The cyanobacteria oxygenated an atmosphere otherwise poisonous to the forms of life that were to come. A good guess, according to some, is that these bacteria built stony habitations for themselves in wet environments. Today, these now abandoned habitations are called stromatolites. Stromatolites, which accrete in shallow waters in the same way coral reefs do, are related to structures called thrombolites. Together, these two structures set a benchmark in Precambrian time. It was modern-day thrombolites still being built up by cyanobacteria in the nearshore waters of Lake Clifton that Anna Maria particularly wanted us to see. It was Cat in the Hat. 300 isn't that long, but I'm reading 300-page Marcus Aurelius book right now, and that's taking me months. I think it's like 250 pages. It's enough to make me want to stop reading forever. The Twisted series is in the making of becoming a series on Netflix. I can't wait. I want to see who the characters are going to be. That'd be really cool, being super invested in a book series and then seeing it come to life. That's kind of like me with Harry Potter. This annunciation, like Clifton itself, was so overwhelming that for many minutes I didn't notice the thrombolites. These pale hummocks of living stone in the lake are believed to be about 400,000 years old. 400,000 years old. They stretch away from us in the near shore water in both directions, looking like a scatter of white mushrooms at or just below the surface of the water. The circumference of each mound expands by about a millimeter, 1/25 of an inch, per year. The cyanobacteria that create them are photosynthesizers, and it's the residue from that process, a secretion rich in calcium carbonate, that comprises the thrombolites. The surface of each one is marked by whorls and cracks. I almost said whores. I thought that was, I don't know why. That was close. Cracked patterns so distinctive that Anna Maria can point out the difference between one structure and another. To my uneducated eye, they seem identical. The rise and the fall of lake winter during wet and dry seasons make the thrombolite reef more or less visible to a visitor, according to the season. The water is clear, however, so even when they're fully submerged, the thrombolites closest to the visitor are still readily apparent, a line of sunken white pillows at the beach's edge. This freshwater reef is the largest such reef in the southern hemisphere, and the Australian government has designated it as critically endangered. Its future existence is threatened by a complex combination of natural and Anthropocene forces, principally real estate development and global climate disturbance. So, natural forces is like climate change. Anthropocene forces, that's anthro means people. So, like real estate, like he said. Anna Maria describes for us what it's like to see the lake and the thrombolites in full moonlight. She describes her encounters here over time with ibis and white-faced herons, with banded stilts and tawny frogmouths. All these creatures are birds. And she says the southern boobook owls and Carnaby's black cockatoos that once lived here, along with several others, aren't around anymore. The Binjarab called the thrombolites Wogel Nuruk, eggs laid in the dreamtime by the female creation serpent. A prominent mentor embedded in their mythology, this serpent is difficult to imagine separately from the Binjarab's home geography. She is an instructor, they say, who illuminates for them the threshold between the inanimate and animate worlds. Leaving the lake, I thank Anna Maria for her translator's introduction to the Yalgorup country. How wonderful to imagine making your way across all of Australia with respectful guides like her. Right. Boobook. No, it's Boobook, not Boobook. What's up, Explosive? Good to see ya. Good to see ya. Not the Boobook. Not the Boobook. No, not the Boobook. How could you? We're not talking about boob books. No. Oh, I'm on my Explosive account. Oops. Is there another one? Oh, wait. Does your Explosive and Panther account have the exact same logo? You've been here on Explosive like the whole time. No, maybe you haven't. Maybe I'm tripping. That's awesome. Crazy. Oh. I'm going to watch the new Last of Us season, episode 1 today. Dude, I'm so hyped. Has anyone seen it? Okay. Back to it. Break. This is a new section. Mark and I spend a couple of days in the Margaret River country around Yallingup on the Indian Ocean, and then return to Perth to meet up with a few others. A landscape painter, photographer, another American writer, and 2 escorts who will lead us on an overland trip north to the Pilbara, a district in the northwest corner of the state of Western Australia. Here, we will find the scale and intensity of iron ore mining staggering, commercial mining's insistence on its justified and legal place in the countryside intimidating, and the industry's burgeoning growth regarded as inevitable by local whites. And the Pilbara, the depauperate, bewildered, and disrupted original residents, Wajari and Banijima, remnant Jabrada from the Burra Peninsula, and Kariyara, explain the deracination that has overtaken them by saying, natural resource extraction happened to us. The more informed and sympathetic among mining company executives will say that the injustices and lack of charity that affect Aboriginal people in the Pilbara are occasionally deplorable. But the world, especially China, is hungry for more steel. And the fly-in, fly-out Caucasian workforce, with their homes and families set up in Bali or Perth, the people who actually extract the ore and haul it away, will simply shrug off the collateral damage to local people. They offer us a rationale they consider irrefutable: their astounding wages. The money's really good, they say. On the drive up to Perth, in anticipation of what we would be seeing in the Pilbara, I asked Mark to talk about his idea that geography exerts a powerful and unacknowledged influence on the human psyche. He believes it frames and encourages certain behaviors, human activities, and social arrangements, so much so that one is justified in speaking of a moral geography, a geography that, over time, inaugurates a social ethic among the people wedded to that place. I know this idea is bound to come up when we reach the Pilbara, between us at least, so I want a little bit of a head start in a discussion about land-based morality and the implacable force of the mining industry. Panther, why do you have two accounts? One that says Panther and one that says Explosive, but they have the same logo? I ask politely. Oh, is it that already? What is that already? Same person, different account. I know. Can't remember if I finished the first season anymore. Oh, yeah. I'll have to rewatch it. The first season is a hard hitter. The first season is a hard hitter for sure. I'm very curious to see where they take the second season. I don't think they're basing it off of the video games anymore. The first season was, but I don't think the second season is. So, this gives them an opportunity to everything up. Don't we love that? Don't we love that? Hi, Panther. We're doing a reading stream. If you don't want to be here, too bad. Keep it open. And then bug off. Thank you very much. Where am I? Anna Maria had said to me when I told her that in the moment I first saw Lake Clifton, I had the feeling of stepping into a dream that an Australian painter named Tom Carment had said once that he painted trees because he was interested in the emotional content of the light around them. I'm strongly drawn to the intelligence behind this statement and aware that some industrialists consider Carment's sentiment daft, even socially disruptive. Mark and I met the others at Perth Airport, the photographer Paul Perrin, the painter Larry Mitchell, both from the suburbs of Perth, the American writer Bill Fox, an expert on land art, and our escorts, Mags Webster and Carolyn Karnofsky. Mags and Carolyn are employed by Form, a small nonprofit investing its energies in the creative work of artists in the Pilbara. Form sponsors photography, painting, and writing workshops for local people, indigenous and non-indigenous, in the belief that an effective way to reduce tension in the Pilbara, generated largely by the social changes large-scale mining has brought to the area, is to encourage creative expression. Form operates in an art gallery in Roebourne and is heavily involved in collaborations with a number of communities, trying to find a way out of the pattern of social destruction that industrialization has wrought here. Form's earnest partner in this search for another way of living in the Pilbaras is BHP Bilton Iron Ore, one of the world's largest mining companies and a principal investor in industrial infrastructure in the Pilbara. The flight from Perth takes us to the mining town of Paraburdu, Boobbuk, where we went 2 four-wheel drive vehicles and headed north to Tom Price, a mining town just west of Karajini National Park. It's late February, coming to the end of summer, but the temperatures here are well over 100 Fahrenheit every day, and the humidity, I learned, will continue to increase the farther north we go. The ore ports at Dampier and Port Hedland on the Indian Ocean are our final destinations. I had originally planned to drive up the north coast of Australia by myself. I wanted to visit a square kilometer array of radio telescopes near Murchison. Y'all restarting on Skyrim? What are you talking about, Trinity? What does that mean? Oh, anyone ever wonder why it's first, second, third, and not 1th, 2th, 3th? You know what? It really would make more sense if that was how it went. Trinity, maybe someday we'll do a Skyrim full playthrough on YouTube. We've tried. Actually, if you go into the old archives, of Joe Mama Games, you will find you will find Skyrim videos. They're all very embarrassing. Very. This technology was intended to locate dark matter and dark energy in the universe, partly to better understand the evolutionary dynamics that create galaxies. I'd spoken with a professor of physics at the University of Western Australia involved in the project and now wanted to speak to the Wajari Yamatri to hear their views about the importance and meaning of the array of equipment they'd permitted to be erected on their land. How insane! Some of us are bagging groceries. Some of us are sitting behind computers all day. And there's people trying to identify dark matter in the cosmoses in the darkest places in the world in the outbacks of Australia. What are we doing? What are we doing? Unfortunately, construction of the array had been delayed. It is not far enough along at this point for me to follow up on these plans before joining up with the others in Perth. I decided to come back to Munchinson the following year when I can walk with the Aboriginal owners to the radio antenna farm and listen to what they think of a search for dark matter. What would be their metaphor, their simulacrum to make sense of the scientist's quest? What sort of white fellow walkabout did they think was in play here? Midway between Paraburdu and Perth was a second place I wanted to see, a remote draw in the Jack Hills that had no name. At that time, it sheltered the oldest known fragments of Earth, tiny zircon crystals dated to 4.27 billion years ago, about 250 million years after the formation of the planet. Shortly after the existence of the site was announced in scientific journals in the mid-1980s, I made arrangements to travel there, a plan that eventually came to fruition. Now, some 20 years after my first visit, I was curious to see how the geography of the place might have changed, whether people had now built a road into the area, and whether the manager of the sheep station on which the site was located had put up a locked gate to keep the curious at bay. Once in Perth, however, I shelved these plans too, and opted to travel to Paraburdu with everyone else. A decision that gave me the afternoon at Lake Clifton with Anna Maria and Mark, and later, time in the Margaret River country with Mark, an Australian author and poet living in New South Wales on the opposite coast. The seven of us were up and gone from the Tom Price before sunrise, driving unpaved roads that took us into the heart of Kurrajini, a landscape that looked as if it were still damp from the creation. Paul had been all through this country before, photographing, and Larry has seen a good bit of it as well. Well descended into and climbed out of deep desert canyons, narrow fissures, and a rolling plain that rose to imposing heights in the Hamserly Range to the north and west of us. A brilliant magenta shield, dotted with white-barked gum trees and clumps of gold-colored spinifex grass. The crystalline air was shot through with bird calls, and flocks of white little corellas and pink gallas passed so closely over us we could hear the creak of ligaments in their wings. Trinity. Hey, if it's your turn and you pull it, and you pull it, you pull Skyrim. Shit. If it's your turn and you pull 5 days to Skyrim, I don't got no choice. I got no choice. I have to. And why is it 5th and not 5th? All right, come on. Do you think 5th is even good? Coral, are you just taking a piss now? Are you just taking a piss now, dude? Kind of rubbing me the wrong way, mate. I might have to shish kebab. I might have to put you on the bobby with all the prawn. I'm gonna have to toast you up. Serve it to the Yetis in Skyrim on the snowy mountains, hey? Okay. The book's pretty cool. It's very descriptive, and you have to I hope it's coming across a little bit while I read. It probably isn't at all. But when you get like really sucked into it, it gets addicting. We swam in still pools of cool water and in slow-moving rivers in the bottoms of several of the gorges, out of the direct rays of the sun, but with the brightness of its incident light ricocheting off walls of 2 billion-year-old rock. Walls in every shade of purple one might catalog, from damson to heliotrope, from hyacinth to raisin, each purple changing hue as the hours passed and as the sun's reflected rays became direct, creating a harsher light. In one canyon we hiked into, we stopped for a while where a narrow river bar had formed and several river red gums and weeping paper barks had taken root. Jeweled geckos ran the vertical walls on either side of the canyon, great slabs of incinerated blacks and bronzed purples. As I lay back on cool, sandy soil, a flock of about 20 zebra finches passed across the narrow strip of blue above the canyon. Small, brightly colored passerines with large bills and barred tails, quick as a school of mackerel. They were gone before their wooting cries reached the floor of the canyon where we lay. Up on the plain, in great reaches of hummocky grassland to either side of the red-orange dirt tracks on which we drove, termite mounds rose higher than the tallest of us stood. Red kangaroos and common wallaroos, suddenly alert as our trucks rolled to a stop, bounded away, drawing the eye to bare escarpment walls rising to the base of the Hamzerly Range. The traditional owners here at Banijima, Yinhawakukua, and Kurama people, ooh, that one sucked. Their occupancy goes back more than 30,000 years. To an outlander, the countryside appears primordial, but has been shaped by these people's hunting and gathering strategies and by the fires they've deliberately set, pursuing their fire stick style of farming. Don't get me started on the teen numbers. Oh my God, right? 10, 12, 13. Like, what the why are we inventing all these crazy words? You know? Spanish is the same. 1 through 10 are very unique, right? They're all their own. And then 11 through 19 are almost the same. 16, 17, 18, 19. Or no, 16 and 17 are almost the same. And then when you hit the 20s are all easy. They're all like the same, right? 21, 22, 23, 24. Right? Why is it not like 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6? You know? Or like, I don't know. I'm thinking too hard. Stop. No more thinking, everybody. No more thinking. You and I are at an hour and 30 minutes. How much have we read in about an hour, right? Have I actually read all this, or did I skip a page? We did not read all of this. No, we didn't. Oh, we didn't read that much. I mean, we're making headway. We read more than I would have read. I'm going to count the page that looked like this. Okay. 1. I'm also going to count the blank page. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's not bad. That's not bad. That's impressive, honestly. It's 1T now, and 1T1 and 1T2. 1T1, 1T2. You know, that's a good point. 1T1, 1T2, 1T3, 1T4, 1T5, 1T6, 1T7, 1T8, 1T9, 20, 21, 22. I like this. Continuing. Mags and Carolyn kissed with tongue. Oh. Sorry, that was Ginger's book. Mags and Carolyn had wanted the 5 of us to see Kairagini to establish a kind of baseline awareness of the country we would be traveling through, by comparison with which Kairagini appears completely untouched. Leaving there, we swung north through Dampier, situated at the far end of the Tom Price Railway Road, which parallels the tracks that convey the iron ore trains out of the Hamzerly Range toward the deep water harbors at Dampier and Port Hedland. As we left the park, an open pit iron ore mine called Marandu shares a boundary with Carigini on 3 of the mine's 4 sides. The signs of human infrastructure quickly emerged from the otherwise apparently unattended land. Fence lines declaring exclusive ownership and the many modern conduits of water, electricity, fuel, and information, power line pylons, telephone towers, and pipelines. Inscribed amid these was a maze of improved and primitive roads, from sealed bitumen, 2-lane highways to roads too dangerous. Our maps warned to attempt in a single vehicle. In such spots, a convoy is preferable, where mutual aid ensures some success, at least in dealing with flash flood washouts, drifting sand, and broken axles. The maps also warned us away from areas closed to the public, abandoned mining towns like Wintenum, where asbestos fibers still swirling in the air are too easily inhaled. Loaded iron ore trains gain on us and roll past as we drive north. Trains too long for us to be able to see both ends in the same moment. Each end lying as it does over the curve of the earth. The longest train ever documented passed this way in 1993. It consisted of 682 iron ore cars, pushed from behind and pulled ahead by 8 diesel-electric locomotives. It was nearly 4.5 miles long and was carrying 110,000 tons of ore. During each 24-hour cycle in the Pilbara, approximately 11 such trains arrive at Dampier and Port Hedland. Most are composed of more than 300 cars, each bearing about 160 tons of pulverized ore. The dark umber mounds sitting inert in the cars, leveled off in the shape of near trapezoids, follow each other like a series of mountain ranges. At some point on the Tom Price Road, did you just catch me picking my nose on 2 different angles? Just kidding. There's a hair in there or something. At some point on the Tom Price Road, we cross a broad, dry watercourse. Its floodplain bounded on either side by a gallery forest of gum trees. On our right at that moment, an ore train is passing. On our left, a group of 8 Aboriginal people are standing still in the riverbed, fixated on the train. Dressed in threadbare clothes, carrying cloth bundles, holding their possessions, the group has the look of an extended family. For people whose psychological anchor in stressful times is in part the immediacy, the intimate closeness of the physical country they were born to, and whose guiding stories are inextricably woven into that land, the passage of the train is traumatic. Its very presence signifies their loss of ownership and denial of access to their ancestors' lands. This is an old story in Australia, in the Americas, on the Tibetan Plateau, and elsewhere. But now, before them in the cars, is the very plateau. Now, before them in the cars, is the very country itself, being shipped off somewhere. For a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, it would be as if Jerusalem and the ground it stood on had been put through a rock crusher, and the gravel of the tombs, the temples, the churches, and the prayer walls had been hauled away by NASA to build dormitories on the moon. We were enveloped regularly by dust storms as we drove the Tom Price. They forced us to slow down in order to keep the near left edge of the dirt road in sight. These rolling storms of fine powder, of bull dust, arrived with and then trailed far behind. A kind of vehicle I've not encountered anywhere else but in Australia's parched outback. A road train. A conventional long-haul road tractor pulling a long string of trailers. Most of the trucks that pass us are hauling mining equipment. Steel drums of engine lubricants and fuels, dry stores, pipe sections, machinery, and motorized vehicles. Utility tractors, small pickup trucks, D4 bulldozers. The mixed load of material is chained down on flatbed trailers. As many as 4 of them might be lined out behind a tractor, each trailer riding on 6 axles. 3 forward, 3 behind a tractor, each tractor riding on... Oh no, I did it again. 3 forward, 3 aft. Each axle supported by 6 tires, 3 on each side. Sometimes the cloud of dust that shrouds the road is being thrown up by more than 140 tires. The tractors, most of them sporting twin-chromed smokestacks, are festooned with banks of driving lights and protected forward by a rampart of chromed steel bars called rue bars, mounted there to ensure that the impact of a large animal struck head-on won't damage the radiator or slow down the tractor. Behind the tinted glass, I could never quite catch the cast of the drivers' clean-shaven faces, only the suggestion of the bodies, determined lean, the glare of mirrored sunglasses, a sleeveless white shirt. Damn, imagine like having a vehicle so big, if you hit a kangaroo, it does nothing. It doesn't slow you down. You just keep going. I need water. I am beginning, as the youth would say, to feel it. We stopped one afternoon for lunch at an oasis of shade trees and limpid, cold, flowing water called Millstream, once the headquarters of a homestead and now part of Millstream Chichester National Park. A pipeline originating here carries water 60 miles north to Dampier, that town today an entrepot for the mining industry. Before that, it had been a pearling center until the pearls were gone. And before that, a whaling town until the whales were gone. As we pulled into Dampier and drifted slowly down into streets towards our motel, I recognized the familiar trappings of towns I'd passed through and other places where the extraction of natural resources, fish, trees, coal, rare earths, oil, diamonds, feels like economic development. An isolated terminus erected on a pounded landscape. Someone here has planted, but not regularly watered, a few wilting saplings. In a weed lot, which seemingly belongs to no particular building, millions of dollars worth of derelict machinery sits rusting. The air is rank with hydrocarbon fumes and is headachy to breathe. Ramshackle houses abut tidy prefabricated warehouses. The parking lot at the motel is littered with cigarette butts, crushed beer cans, fast food wrappers, glass shards, and bits of clothing. It gleamed with spills of food grease and oil from dripping engines. The air in the bar attached to the hotel is thick with cigarette smoke and hammered by thudding, raging music. Women in tight, skimpy clothes sashay past tables where knots of men fall silent, as if a shark were passing their little raft. The 7 of us take our beers outside onto a shaded patio, out of the air conditioning and into the night heat and humidity. A safer, less crowded, less desperate commons. I feel a strange affection toward most of the men in that bar, that more than disdain. I can easily imagine anyone here might say, out of hearing of the others, that they feel trapped by the circumstances they find themselves in. Love gone sour at home, mortgages to be paid, college for the kids to save for so the kids don't have to invest in some version of the treadmill work their dads are indentured to. You work every day, then search out an anesthesia that will bury the anger and ennui the work fills you with. The deeper one pushes into the pall of violence and despair created among too many working people by the extractive industries that employ them, corporations off the leash of government restraints, their policies framed by a relentless quest for strong profit margins, all of it driven hard by men and women on trading floors in Hong Kong, New York, and Frankfurt. The more difficult it is to identify a villain in the fin de sel mortality play unfolding here. Yeah, it's really a crazy way that capitalism works, or like most of the world works. You know, you have me hitting the table made my mouse move. That's what turns my screen on. You know, you have these like inhospitable working conditions, or the really, really, really heavy lifting, the dirty work, the sweaty work. Things are getting fucked up, broken, people mistreated, and these areas are just hectic, moving, busy, and they're all operated by these people in suits with millions of dollars and 6-story apartments or mansions off 2,000 miles away. It is pretty wild. It is pretty wild. I really like this book because it taps into a lot of kind of like deep-rooted, just because something's happened one way doesn't mean, just because something's happened one way for like the entirety of the UK and America's existence, it doesn't mean that it's the right thing. I think that is something hard to conceptualize, even for me. Even for me, because I'm so fucking, my brain's so big. Right. The truth, one tends to think, is that all of us, drunk or sober, sedated or not, aggrieved or manic, live consciously or unconsciously within this maelstrom, which no one really wants to risk shutting down. Some of the men I sit with for a while at the bar in Dampier tell me they are making $250,000 a year working in the ore pits, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. They believe they will outdistance death and that those lying dead by the side of the road are just unlucky. No concern of theirs. They're happy with what the job provides, and they are confident that anyone who wouldn't trade places with them is simply just dense. When they head for the men's room, they walk with a swagger. I'm guessing they learned from watching cowboy movies. They sit at the bar stools with the same swagger. They remind me of the two men who compete in a foot race in a story by George Louis Borges, titled El Fin. The men, racing furiously side by side, are both beheaded in the same instant. The money down is on which body will run the farthest before collapsing. Break. The first morning in Dampier, our escorts from Form have arranged for us to see the Burrup Peninsula. A mammoth desalination plant has been built here. Desalination plant has been built here alongside a petrochemical plant, which is the terminus for a natural gas pipeline laid out on the bottom of the Indian Ocean. Plans for a nitrate plant, working in tandem with the petrochemical plant, which uses salt from the desalination plant, combined with ammonia to produce chlorine gas, will produce explosives to clear more land on the peninsula for additional plants and industrial infrastructure. The industrial development is considered economically feasible because funds from iron ore mining are expected to last at least another 40 years. On the day after we arrive in Dampier, the local paper carries a story about a new billion-ton iron ore deposit located recently just south of the Pilbara. The people with Form have no agenda for us. Their sole interest, it seems, is in gaining our impressions of the Pilbara as writers and artists, and in the publication of all this, our photographs, words, and paintings, to advance their primary goal of promoting a better conservation about the fate of the Pilbara and its people. They want something more enlightening than a fist fight between a drunken Aboriginal and a drunken truck driver in one of the Dampier bars about what's at stake, what's being lost and gained. They want a better conversation than a shouting match with a middle management executive at BHP Billiton. It's hard to understand how anyone can look at what's happening to Aboriginals and their culture on the Burrup Peninsula and simply turn away, as if this cultural detonation is not happening. To merely bring up the subject of slavery or genocide, which underlie the varnished history of so many nations, mine included, is apparently to offer a calumny of some sort. The Burrup Peninsula, many academics maintain, was once the geographic center of the greatest array of rock art ever created. Thousands upon thousands of depictions of animals, humans interacting, of spiritual drama and historical events once existed here. It was a Musée des Orsay of petroglyphs and pictographs. Oh my god, I was about to like tap out. My throat is like starting to have pains. It's so weird. We talk and stream all the time, but reading. It's cooking me. We did a 40-hour Minecraft vanilla stream for a world record. I was fine. That morning in Dampier, we were taken to see the fraction of what is left of this extensive outdoor gallery. Mark and I climbed a slope of boulders beneath a cliff face to get a close look at a 4,000 or 5,000-year-old pictograph of a now extinct marsupial called a thylacine, and another of a second extinct animal, a flat-tailed kangaroo. All about us were dozens of other ancient glyphs. For diversity of imagery and density of depictions, the area has, arguably, no equal in the world. It is, with the socks on. Socks on. The reading's difficult. Maybe we reward that. Is it getting difficult? In order to clear land for the nitrate plant, developers began removing hundreds of pieces of rock art with bulldozers, perhaps with the exculpating belief that a great deal of Aboriginal art would still remain intact elsewhere on the peninsula. When the traditional owners of this site, the Jaburara, learned they couldn't stop the bulldozers, they asked that, at the very least, the rock art not be crushed for use as foundation material. Might the rocks instead be moved to a kind of graveyard to be surrounded by a cyclone fence so that the artwork might in this way be cared for? They were told their wishes would be accommodated. On a peninsula jutting out into the Indian Ocean. Thanks for being here, by the way, Ganja. And everyone else, thank you. The first white settlers repeatedly poisoned the Jabararas' water holes with arsenic, and when they didn't kill enough of them, they just started shooting the people. Developers broke down 25,000 years worth of rock art and dumped it like so much construction debris in a single spot, which they surrounded with the cyclone fence. Like a quarantine station. The Jabarara were left to sort the jumble out any way they could. The flayed walls of the caves at Lascaux and Chauver dumped into a barrow ditch. The Jabarara sorted it out. Some of the pieces were too large for them to reposition without heavy equipment, which they did not have access to. Images that were not meant to be seen by Jabarara women or not meant to be seen by male Jabarara were placed face down. Images of lovemaking, which the construction crews ridiculed and lampooned as abo porn, were wrestled over so they could not be seen. Images of beings who should not be forced to stare at the nitrate plant were turned to face elsewhere. Our party was escorted by 2 local guides, 1 Aboriginal, 1 white. Sparks flew between them periodically. For example, when the white man began interpreting the meaning behind some of the glyphs, and the Aboriginal man, very disturbed by this, all but shouted at him, "They can't be interpreted." That's what he said. In the tension that persisted between the two throughout the afternoon, we saw the age-old collision of scholarship on the one hand and deference to mystery on the other. Without room for mystery and uncertainty, their Aboriginal man felt there cannot be any truly intelligent conversation. Paul wanted to climb a nearby rise to photograph the rock art graveyard from that height, and I accompanied him to gain this same perspective. "Mind the adders," cautioned one of the guides, reminding us the loose rock and heavy grass here was a preferred habitat for the Acanthopsis antarcticus, the common death adder. The cyclone fence around the catastrophic jumble of rock art sagged in several places where local white children, we were told, had scaled it to get inside the compound in order to see the dirty Aboriginal art. Perhaps these were the same local children who had scaled the rock faces we'd clambered over that morning to paint their names and dates among the glyphs. Wild. Okay. We have 8 minutes left. We'll just chat. We'll just chat amongst ourselves. We read a lot. We seriously did. Like, I don't read this much when I try to read alone. So thank you for being here. I don't know who is here. I don't know who just suffered through me mispronouncing Aboriginal names. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 20 pages? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Hi. Hi, my name's Job. My name's Job. That was super fun. Oh, we haven't done one in so long. That was probably like a year since we've done the last one. That's my guess. What do we read? We read a different environment. We should like read like Twilight or like a Harry Potter book. Some fiction, not real. The word fiction and nonfiction were like notably the two hardest words for me to ever memorize. I would consistently go, okay, nonfiction, fiction. Nonfiction means not real. Fiction means real. Right? That makes sense. Fiction, real, and then the non means not. So not real. But no. Fiction is not real. Nonfiction is real. And then every time I would try to recollect which was which, I would then go, last time I thought this, I was wrong. So I'll do the opposite. But little did I know, I actually remembered it properly, and then I would think the opposite, and the opposite was wrong. Pretty brutal, huh? My life's hard. My brain, rough. I'm excited to get glasses. I'm super excited. Honestly, we have 5 viewers. That's pretty pogue. That's more than I thought we'd have. Yeah, we hit 9. Yeah, we were popping. We have on the list next Elden Ring. So we'll be playing Elden Ring Friday. So that'll probably end up being a longer stream. Probably be a longer stream on Friday, because how the hell am I supposed to not stream that for a very long time? Am I right? So we have Elden Ring on Friday. Friday. You know, I think I need a new background. Should my background be of Aiden? What do we think about this background? Oh, I leaned the wrong way. Is this a good background? Aiden standing in the middle of a road. Babs, you have not been here, dog. Hold on, I'll do some other testers. 24 hours. How am I gonna do 24 hours of Elden Ring? How am I gonna do that? How am I gonna do that, dude? That's like kind of no. That's impossible. No, that's impossible. How am I supposed to do that? That's so much. Hold on, we're gonna source. Babs, it's good to see you. No, it's okay. I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. I trust you. I do, Babs. I do. I mostly trust you. Usually, most of the time. I'm thinking of photos to use. I trust you almost all of the time. Ooh, this is a good photo. What do we think about this one? Yeah, that's a good background. Your boy took this. Your boy took this, of course. Your boy. That's me. Babs, I just read for like an hour and a half. My throat is cooked. How are you, baby girl? How are you? Hola. Hola. We have 3 minutes, Crazy. Oh my God. Crazy couldn't last 3 more minutes. No, premature. Crazy's premature. Yeah, love listening to the descriptors used for the lake. That really took me there. How crazy. There's like living organisms in there that is the same population from 450 million years ago. 450 million years ago. I'm falling asleep, bro? What? What? Did we get fucking soft out of nowhere? What, did we get soft? How did this happen? How did this happen, huh? We get soft? We flaccid around these parts? I can't believe we actually had a reading stream. How nice. We did something that was not video games. We did something that probably no other streamer in the entire world did today. Let's just assume. Let's just make a wild assumption and not fact check that at all. Trinity, I see you, boo. Babs, I see you, boo. Yeah, so to like put into perspective, I think those paintings were 4,000 years old? That they were talking about at the end of the passage, the one that were taken down by bulldozers and then made fun of and walked on and kids drew their names on. So 4,000 years ago, the Roman Empire was the year 20 BC. So you can pretty much just say 0, right? The year 0. We are 2025. Times that by 2. And people were alive drawing on rocks. How crazy. Weird. The last reading stream I was at, I modded. Do you remember what book? I don't think so. Because I don't think you were modded on Twitch for like the last year and a half I was streaming over there. Also, Baps, I'm not ending stream until you tell me how your goddamn day was. Don't do this to me. 450,000 years. That's about the same age as my amber. And then my necklace. So 450,000 years ago, that was when like the first bacteria, the first living organism on the planet started. My diamond. So this is diamond and then gold. Diamond is the white part in the center. That is 1 to 2.5 billion years old. So, I'm cool at that. We got that eyes. We got that eyes. I don't remember the book. But that's why I said the last reading stream I was actually there for. I modded. Oh! I thought you said you modded my last reading stream. And I was saying maybe. But it's a long time ago. I wasn't sure. Okay, everyone. It's 2 hours. Baps is going to have to fill me in later. Babs Babs is in debt to me. Babs is in debt to me now. Hey, much love, homies. Much goddamn love, homies. 8 likes on the stream. I appreciate you. We have other YouTube videos. Go check them out. We had a funny repo stream with Winja recently. When was that? That was 2 days ago? Yeah, 2 days ago. People I saw recently. Ganja. Crazy. Trin. Baps. Crazy. That's so cooked. Told you to go to sleep with the stream on. Oh, wait. Alternate angle outro. Homies. Love ya. I'll see you tomorrow for another stream. Wait. No, I'm off tomorrow. I lied compulsively to you. Hi. I lied. Friday. Elden Ring. I'll see you on Friday. I'll see you in the Dick Sword. Eat water, drink food, slap hashtag names. Have a great rest of your evening, morning, and afternoon. I see you soon. Pinch the elderly. Slap the... Oh, don't do that. Okay. Okay, bye. Goodbye. See ya.